viewers, and welcome back to the Self-Made Auto Channel. Sitting inside the 2001 Nissan Frontier. Customer complaint is the money light's on, and also the heater only works on high. So we're gonna got the old scan tool fired up. I don't think this one's gonna auto ID, being an 01. And I'm willing to bet that we have a misfire code. When I started it up and pulled it in, it didn't sound great. And I could feel a misfire. It seemed to be kind of, chugging and bucking a little bit here on the way in. So this is a Frontier. I have no idea what engine is in it. We gotta find out which submodel this thing is. It says it's an XEV6 according to the tailgate. So we'll read the codes out of it. Perhaps if it is a misfire, this will give us some direction as to which cylinder. I guess while we're waiting for that. Oh, there we go. So we have a knock sensor code and a cylinder 2 misfire. For some reason, I think those knock sensor codes on these Nissans come up with any other code. I could be wrong. She is right about her heater control. Only works on number 4, okay. So let's have a little gander under the hood, visual inspection, make sure it's not something obvious. Make sure like a piston didn't fall out or something. Ooh. Look at that. It's kind of old school distributor cap. Looks like relatively newer wires. Kind of hanging out of their holder here. So we're just going to kind of leave stuff alone in case it's, crossfiring or something. I don't know where number 2 is. Oh, the cap's labeled. That's convenient. That's 1. This is number 2. Oh, right here. I wonder if somebody's already been meddling because according to the cap, this is number 2 and that one is not even on its little peg. Let me just have a look under the intake here, see if I can see where the end of it goes. Oh, way down yonder. Holy smokes, these plug wires are like that long. Alright, well, let's just leave things alone. It looks like it is hooked up. And we know it's not on these cylinders, so we can put them plug wires back in their little holder. So that's interesting. Cap looks relatively new, or at least it's shiny. A little bit of dust on it. I don't know if these, I hardly ever work on Nissans, oddly enough. I rarely see them. Of course, you can't get to the injector or anything, so we'll have to do what we have to do. Looks relatively clean under here, or an 01. This thing's missing. Guess we can put that back. Somebody's definitely been here. Got to snap back on. Look at that, boom, fixed. So I don't know if these are prone to, certain pattern failures or not. Alright, well, let's see what we have. Let's kind of start old school and simple. I loosened up our plug wires so we can very gingerly take that baby off, make sure we have, spark here. Let me fire it up. Get us a good ground here. We're going to use our test light. Make sure we don't get electrocuted. It does look like it's running kind of rough. Pretty good spark. Alright. Oh, it's gonna bite me, I can feel it. Let's shut it off real quick. I just want to kind of compare that. Just want to make sure we hear the other cylinder cut out. Look pretty decent, but all right, quite similar. Number 2 is definitely our offending cylinder. Probably can't tell on the video, but it is running rough. You can probably see the hood shaking there. Alright. So now that we have some verification, cylinder 2, we have spark. I want to check, it's always my habit, is to make sure there's no obvious service bolt-ins on it, something put out by the manufacturer. It's my advice to you to do this early and often when you're working on cars, because it'd be kind of a pisser to, get quite a ways into a diag to find out, Nissan has a bolt-in on this, it's, X or whatever, whatever they may say. So always check those first and foremost. No bolt-ins pop up. Great. So where do we go now? We looked at a few things. We know we have cylinder 2 misfire. We verified it. It appears that we have spark. We're going to make a little bit of an assumption here, thinking that perhaps somebody did cap and rotor and plugs and wires. Now I'm just assuming. I haven't talked to the customer. Perhaps in an effort to fix this problem. We know that likely our spark plug wire is good down to the spark plug because it would actually jump a spark to it. Now if that wire was open, our spark technically shouldn't have jumped to it. It would have not sparked or jumped to the cap. So just quickly, we're going to get a baseline on it. So in order to have combustion, we need the 4 strokes: suck, squeeze, bang, and blow. So we have to have intake, compression, we have to have spark and fuel and air. All has to happen at the right time. And it has to, be able to breathe. So I think with the scope, we can quickly do a relative compression test, kind of get a baseline of the mechanical condition of that cylinder, which can kind of trick you sometimes. If let's say we have a lack of spark, but we have fuel or an overfueling injector, it's going to wash out that cylinder, so it's going to look low on relative compression. If it does, but we can do that quickly enough without tearing into anything. We'll just clamp around the negative battery terminal, crank it over, see if all the cylinders look relative to each other. And while we're doing that, we can also find the fuse that feeds the fuel injectors. We can put a current clamp on that, make sure all of our injectors are working, gather a little bit of data without tearing anything apart to hopefully get some direction. Are we looking at something mechanical? Are we looking at spark? Are we looking at fuel? And that's pretty much about all we can look at. And hopefully this will lead us in the right direction pretty quick. So we've got our scope set up here. Channel 1 is going to be our blue trace, current clamp on battery negative, relative compression. I've got our trigger set on the number 2, that's our one that's giving us problems, so I just put a secondary probe on the spark plug wire, and fuse number 3 on the interior fuse box is the one that feeds the fuel injector, so I threw a current clamp on that because, why not? So let's go ahead and crank it. We'll let it gather some data here. You guys can see I got a trigger up on the screen, so the scope's just kind of sitting there waiting for current input. Hopefully you can just zero this out. All right, so hopefully everything's good and I don't screw it up. We're going to put it in clear flood mode at first, so we shouldn't see any fuel injector waveform. My anticipation, or what I think I'm going to do, is crank it, clear flood mode, let off the throttle, let it start, and collect our data. Pause it. Let's go back to our first screen. What in the thunder is going on with that current clamp? Well, I'll be jiggered. Is something wrong with this little guy? We're going to have to rerun this test. Again, rookies, I tell you. We got her set up right. Should have 200 amp mode, 200 amp mode. Let's just try this one more time. Should be right. Should be the right direction. That's my current clamp is going wonky on me. Try this again. My current clamp must be going stupid. That is not right. Let's figure out what I'm doing wrong here. round two. See if this works. Fire in the hole. Yeehaw, looks like it worked that time. Let's pause that. Stop. Okay, it stopped. Just make sure. Okay, now we can back up a screen. Hooray, it worked. So let's have a look at this. It looks pretty even. Let's just look at our relative compression, because that's all we're really kind of worried about right here. Let's see. Let's find who's cylinder number 2. Let's make sure we got something to go on here. Well, figure out how to do what I'm doing here. There we go. Not really concerned with the secondary waveform. We just need a trigger. I don't care if it looks sloppy. So we got let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and it starts over. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, starts over. Okay. So we can see all we're looking at is on that waveform, just the peaks of the hump, the peak current draw of each cylinder relative to each other. Looks normal. Not that it's, this doesn't mean that it's, not mechanical, but the current draw from the starter each time it comes up on a compression stroke is nice and even. Usually if there's a compression loss, you're going to see a loss in current draw from the starter, so that looks good. I'm happy with that. Now I guess while we're right here, we can see what it looks like when it started. We can look at our injectors, which there's definitely something going wonky there. So look at this. Let's see here. Let's enhance. Let's zoom in here. Look at our fuel injectors. Fuel injectors usually draw around an amp, roughly. Depends on the resistance of them. These are drawing about 800 milliamps, except for one, which is not shorted. It's drawing a negative amperage. So we're going to say 0 amps. Must be I didn't zero out my amp clamp. So this is fantastic. This gives us direction. So let's do this. Let's ditch these channels. Let's get rid of channel A, because we don't care about that. We don't care about secondary ignition. Let's get rid of our trigger. Yeah, my current clamp's not zeroed, so let's see. We're going to get rid of our trigger. Let me zero out my amp clamp here, reach in here. It's kind of just dangling in the fuse box. Alright, so we're zeroed. I'm going to take it and fire it up. Alright, let's change our scale here a little bit, get a little more detail. Yes, sir. Alright, let's shut the truck off. Houston, we have a problem. So look at that, fellas. Let's back this up a screen. Okay, so there we start. Wow, how did we get that lucky where we can nail it that quick? So if you look at the current ramp here on these fuel injectors, you can see the current being induced into the coil to move the pintle. And as it comes up, you can actually see on the injector pattern, let's look at a good one here. You see this little hump right here? That's where the pintle, that's where there's actual mechanical movement in that injector. So it's inducing a magnetic field around it, and then all of a sudden there's some mechanical movement, so the current drops a little bit, and then it starts to build again, to hold that fuel injector open. So seeing this little hump, that's a good thing. That means there's actual pintle movement. Doesn't mean there's gas flow, but it means mechanically moved. But we look at this fuel injector here, and it's not drawing any current. I'm assuming if we check the resistance on it, to have low current, same voltage applied, we have to have high resistance. So I'm assuming that we have high resistance, and I'm going to take a big fat guess here and assume that's number 2. What we could do at this point, what could we do? A couple things we could do. We could actually, back probe an injector we could get to, know the firing order, actually pinpoint that as number 2. Or we could take a big fat guess, but the problem is I don't think we can get to it. So let's see. That's pretty cool. I'm gonna save this waveform, figure out our next step, and take it from there. Just so we're all on the same page, let me show you where I'm at here. So this is what I have in the fuse box for looking at the current on those injectors. So just our current probe, a loop, put the 10 amp fuse back in it, stuffed in the fuse box. Now I think, we can assume it's number 2, let's be honest here. But I went ahead and I just back probed, I believe it's gonna be the number 1 injector. We'll have to look this up. The control side, I put an attenuator so we don't smoke our scope. I'm gonna get you guys pulled up here so we can at least look at current versus, a known good signal, so we know that for sure it's number 2 coil or number 2 injector we're going after. Fact is, we already have the scope out, so why not just use it? So let me get it, get a pointing device here. Let's get it running. It's gonna be channel D. It's gonna be the yellow one there at the bottom. Let me fire this baby up. Let it just collect a little bit of data here. Pause that. Let me go shut her off. Alright. We could have done that right from the get-go if we suspected a fuel injector or had any inclination there. So let's see. Let's just zoom in on this. So there we are. Now we have a trigger. So, and it's kind of fun. You can just look at the relationship on this fuel injector. Current versus voltage. So here it is sitting at, 12 volts across this line. The ECM pulls it to ground. And as it's pulled to ground, the entire time it's pulled to ground, that current's building inside that coil. Now this is a really short period of time. We can see the on time in the injector if we want to. This really doesn't help us at all, but what do we have? Oops. It is 5.98 milliseconds. That is the on time of that fuel injector. Seems like a long time. Let's see. 5.9, yeah, so about 6 milliseconds of on time on that injector. And then as the electric flow, as the ECM shuts that transistor off, that's when our current drops, and then we get this little voltage spike, this little kickback. That's why I put an attenuator on the scope, because that kickback is probably around 100 volts. I can never remember what the Pico can handle, but better safe than sorry. It is 97 volts. All right, so that's kind of that in a nutshell. But what we're really after is we now know that this fuel injector, we know where it is in the firing order. So let's get the firing order for this thing. Let's see here. We're going to go to common specs. It's usually right on this screen. All right, firing order and cylinder ID. So let's click on that. We'll scroll down to the 6 bangers. Let's see, what is this? V6. Not the only V6. You always got to double check. Yeah, so we go from V6 to V8. Figure out how to use the mouse here. So I keep that pretty simple. Firing order is pretty easy. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Pop back to our scope. We know that passenger side front is cylinder number 1. So we pop back here, next one, so it's number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, and then 2. So pretty easy, quickly identify. Number 2 is our bad fuel injector, or the one that is drawing low current, that likely has high resistance. So now we have direction, very quick, and we really didn't get our hands too dirty. So now we have direction. Got us a wiring diagram. It's going to show all of our fuel injectors on there. Now this is a colored wiring diagram, and they never ever show connectors, so it shows the wire going from the injector straight to the ECM, no connector. Excuse me, I ain't buying it, because I see some connectors here. And I'm going to guess that one of these is for our injectors. Now let's see, we're going to technically have 1 power feed, and then 6 other wires. This one's got a bunch of wires. Let's see what color is common. I can look up an OEM diagram, but I struggle on Nissan. Black with red. Let's see, do we have, of course, both of them have black with red. White with purple, white. Just looking at here, what's our number 2 injector? White with, or blue, white with a blue stripe. Is that on here? I'm thinking maybe that's our connector. Let's unplug this one. Oh, get it off the... Yeah, baby. There's that. Let's see, do we have a white with a blue stripe? Well, I don't really want to cut open that harness. Let me just see if I can find our colors for us here. We got white with purple, white with green. Are those injector colors? White with green, white with purple. Maybe white with reds. We got a white with red. Anyone? Not seeing it. Maybe it's in. Oh, I see. She's split up into 2. There's our white with blue. It's in the other connector. Okay. See if we can get this one undone. Mother of pearl. Ah, freaking arthritic, stinking, stupid fingers. Just push that tab down and get her to come out. You know you want to. There you mother lover. Who doesn't love their mother, you know? So now, what do we got here? Nothing. We got white with blue, white with red. Yeah, we got a white with red. We should probably have a white with black. We do. Okay, so it looks like we got 3 injectors, 1 in each harness. Now, we'll bust out the old DVOM. The other ones we're drawing around an amp. So I'm going to assume, you don't have to assume that a good fuel injector is probably, 12 to 14 ohms if it draws around an amp. Let's see, get this baby set up on ohmage. Get the little protective caps off the end. This auto range, how's this little guy work? Okay, we got a light range. There's ohms. I don't know if you guys can see it or not. Maybe get her tweaked here where we can. I'll holler at you. I'll call them out. Alright, there we go. Let's set that up. Can you see that? Let's get it set where you can see it and I can't. That's what's important. It's got a kickstand. We'll kickstand it. How's that? Right there at the bottom of your screen. Let's make sure our leads are good. Good enough. I turned off the auto range. I got it set just to ohmage. So technically we should be able to ohm out from power wire, which is going to be black with a red stripe, to whatever injector. So let's pick one that's good. Let's pick white with black. Who's that? White with black. That is number 1. So let's see if I can do this. Should get some probe extensions here, but I'll try to just hold them on here. What do we got there? Oops. We got me not holding still. 13.5 ohms on the number 1 injector. So that's good. That's our assessment. We thought between 12 and 14 roughly. So let's do this again. Whoa, Mrs. O's yelling at the children in there. Okay, so 13.5, 13.4 is what we're going to use for baseline. Now we'll check our bad one, number 2, which should be white with the blue stripe, which looks like it is in the bottom left, second one in. So we're going to go here, and we're going to go to power. This should have high resistance. 346 ohmage. All right, there's another injector right next to it. Let's check that. Let's see, 13.5. So that's another one. So our bad injector is at, we'll round it off, 350 ohms of resistance. What's up, Mrs. O?
Goodbye.
You beating our children in there? I'm out here trying to talk loud to cover up your screaming.
My screaming?
Yeah.
I'm screaming?
You're in there, you sons of... I hear you.
What am I saying?
I don't know. I can't hear much. My head's plugged up. I'm sick, can't you tell?
You can't hear?
Nope. I have
So you're
selective hearing. Selective hearing. You tried to tell me something, I didn't hear you.
Oh, well, that's too bad.
Yeah. You know, unless it's something I want to hear.
Exactly.
What's up, sissy? You going home? Yeah. All right. We gonna play some more cards tonight? Yeah. Even though I whoop you? Huh? Yeah, I whooped you good, man. I'm a goldfish master.
Better hold him to it.
All right. We gotta get back to work here, Miss O.
The day's supposed to be done.
It is done. So I guess that's it, folks. I'm gonna leave, I plug these back in. I'm not gonna snap on the valve cover yet. I don't know if we're gonna get this job. At this point, you know, we know that the problem is definitely number 2. Our problem is definitely on the fuel injector circuit. You know, do we have high resistance from here to the plug? You know, I don't know. We still have to pull the valve or the intake manifold to find out. But we can at least call the customer. We have proof. We know, you know, where we're heading with this thing. We're not guessing. We're not throwing plugs and wires and cap and rotor and, you know, whatever else you throw in a car for a misfire. We're able to very quickly determine, is the problem in the fuel side? Is it in the spark side? You know, is the engine mechanical? And then, you know, we narrowed it right down to a single cylinder. Now we can call them and say, here's where we got to go next. Probably a bad fuel injector. Pull the upper intake, measure the injector itself. Does the resistance spec, you know, is it the same? Or do we have a really, really corroded connector? So, you know, something along those lines. But at least we have direction now. So I think what I'm going to do is get about cutoff order parts for tomorrow. I'm going to order the injector. I'm going to order the upper intake gasket. So if we get the job, we'll at least have the parts here for tomorrow. I guess we got to look at the blower motor too. We'll see what's going on with that. Maybe I'll do that in another video so it doesn't get all cluttered up here. Plus I told Miss Trinity I'd play some cards with her tonight. She is a go fish kind of girl. Likes to do that. So I'm going to go home and do that. And I want you to go down there and click subscribe, ring the bell so you don't miss the other part of this Nissan video where we either fix it or we, you know, diagnose a blower motor and ship it, one or the other. While you're down there, go in that comment box, leave me a comment, give this video a thumbs up if you like it. And just remember, viewers, if I can do it, you can do it. Thanks for watching.